Hey, what's up, and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today we are bringing it back to our X-Men series rewatch with X-Men Apocalypse, which we all know is the third film in the prequel series that stars James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Jennifer Lawrence, and the like. We also know that there's a fourth film called Dark Phoenix, which I have not yet seen. But if you've been watching my channel, you know that I've been rewatching and scoring all of these X-Men movies up to this point in preparation to see Dark Phoenix for the first time in a couple of weeks when it comes out to digital. I'm not done yet though. I still have yet to see Logan and Deadpool 2, so stick around, keep an eye on my channel to see those reviews. The best way to do that is to subscribe. But for now, we're just gonna be talking about X-Men Apocalypse. This movie's pretty divisive. A lot of people like it, but a whole lot more people seem to hate it. And that's because for the longest time, I feel like this movie was a part of everybody's bottom three. I think now Dark Phoenix has replaced X-Men Apocalypse in that bottom three. And I can't really speak to that because I haven't seen Dark Phoenix at all. But I can speak to the bottom three, which people normally put out to be X-Men 3, X-Men Origins Wolverine, and X-Men Apocalypse. Look, there's only one X-Men movie that I thought was bad, and that was X-Men Origins Wolverine, and I have enjoyed every single other movie other than that, including X-Men Apocalypse. I can definitely tell where people don't like it though. It's not a perfect film. It definitely has a lot of flaws associated with it, but it is definitely super entertaining in general. But we'll get into that in just a hot second. First, what's this movie about? Well, the X-Men have to face against their biggest foe yet, Thanos. I mean, an all-powerful being that needs a bunch of powerful things to destroy the world because it's already destroying itself. Apocalypse. And I make a lot of fun about this because the character somewhat seems like Thanos. He's all-powerful. He needs to collect a lot of powerful things to destroy the world in general. He's destroying the world because of the same basic motivation that Thanos had. The only difference is that you don't really sense the value that Apocalypse feels, while Thanos, you did. Thanos felt like he was always trying to do something good, something right, even though his justifications for it was absolutely founded in the wrong way. This one just seems like he's bad to be bad, he's bad because he's power hungry, he's just a villain. So he seems more like a James Bond classic villain than he does Thanos. But those are really just pet peeves instead of what's actually bad about the movie. So what about the good stuff? Let's talk about some positives. First and foremost, I'd say that this movie is extremely entertaining to watch, right? It's flashy, it's explosive, there's a lot of action, the visuals are really good, the cinematography, the editing, everything about the movie and the way it looks is just a lot of fun to watch. You can't really take your eyes off of it because you might miss something. And that all goes into how entertaining it is in general, even if nothing important is happening at the same time. But that's not really what makes it good. This is one of my favorite representations of how they utilize the people, the characters, the actors all around. It may not be the best score I've given the people category in my scores, but it is up there because I liked how they represented each and every character and how they all had an important role to play in this film. The introductions to their characters are all very well done. They all have a personal stake into what's going on, they have personal stories. Very similar actually on how they did the Avengers movies and how they separated each and every character in those films to have their own unique personal stories as well. Same thing here. The older X-Men movies didn't quite do it that well because they always made characters get into relationships and it turned into this like romance saga. Another great thing to mention about this movie is Michael Fassbender, who does an amazing job once again as Magneto in this film. He did a great job here, and he did a great job in First Class. He did an okay job in Days of Future Past, but that was more of a James McAvoy movie than it was a Michael Fassbender movie. First Class and Apocalypse, he did a pretty much equal great job in, but it could be argued that his emotional stake is much stronger in this film, and it makes much more sense as to why he eventually becomes the Magneto that we all love and know. So everybody in this movie played an independently important role into the plot direction. Nobody was just kind of thrown in there randomly and you're like, why are they there? They all seem to have an independent purpose that ties in to the overall story, and I love that about this film. And once again, nearly perfect score in the behind the scenes category, one of the more entertaining films in the X-Men series as a whole. Once again, it's not a perfect movie, it is definitely flawed, but one of the main things you're gonna notice is that it is entertaining for what it's worth. This is one of the few X-Men movies that you could probably just turn your brain off to, but regardless, it is fun. But what about the bad? This movie isn't perfect, right? So it has flaws. What are those flaws? Weirdly enough, out of the 30 subcategories that I rate out of any given film, this movie only had one subcategory rated as bad, and that was originality. It wasn't original. A majority of everything else is rated just fine. It could be better, could be worse, but overall, meh, or maybe just forgettable. For instance, my writing score in this film is the worst rated score of the film at 5 out of 10 possible stars. That means out of all the other X-Men movies that I've seen thus far, it is the second worst when it comes down to the writing specifically. And that doesn't mean that the writing is bad, it's just a majority of it is just mediocre. The dialogue could be better. The balance could definitely be better. A lot of people think it's completely convoluted, too many characters, too many locations, too many everything, but I actually think the narrative of the film itself is pretty solid. So once again, it's right there in the middle. Story depth, you could tell the bones of something meaningful is there, especially when it comes down to Magneto's performance, but it's kind of forgotten in the long term. So once again, could be better, could be worse. So once again, that all adds up to 5 out of 10 possible stars. The only thing in the writing category that I consider good is the concept, which is just interesting enough to keep watching. So once again, could be better, could be worse, but that is the worst score of the film, is the writing. And that's just the thing. Every category in this movie has an area that could have used a little bit of improvement. Other than the people category, I thought everything about the people category was actually good. Not perfect, but pretty darn good. Nothing about it was bad to me. The writing had problems. When it comes down to the BTS, it could have used better musical scoring. The narrative arc could have used better obstacles. As entertaining as it is, it's not as entertaining as it could be because I don't have the impulse to recommend it to anybody else. The list kind of goes on, but it's just like that. Just a bunch of stuff that just could have been better, but at the same time could have been worse, so keep that in mind. My original score for this film was 83%. I can tell you that it has dropped down to 82%, down 1%, not by much. Still 8 out of 10%, still 80 percentile, still a low B if you want to call it that. As far as ranking this in my other X-Men films, it is above First Class and right below The Wolverine. Guys, tell me what you thought of this movie, X-Men Apocalypse, in the comments down below. And as for YouTube, you know what to do. Subscribe me, hit that like button, and hit the bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out.